This is our second episode of the FAFO show, FAFO and Chill, and it's two of us together, Ake, me, and David here, developer advocates lead at Chainstack. And again, this is our second episode of the FAFO show. If you're not up to date what FAFO is, that's FAFO. That's basically an abbreviation, an acronym for F around, screw around, basically, and find out, which is something which is coming from a meme, and which is something that we do. You can watch the first episode. It's probably on the playlist somewhere in there to get the full intro into what it is. But it's a FAFO, it's a word, it's a very chill kind of feeling, but it's also very focused one, which is something it's something that we do a lot at Chainstack. Again, if you look through our Slack conversations, FAFO is probably one of the top mentions. And whenever we need to figure out something, we just, hey, FAFO this, FAFO that, how does that work? And before starting this episode, it's, by the way, 7 a.m. in Singapore. I think it's 8 p.m., around 8 p.m. in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where David is.
About 8:30.
Before starting this episode, we were just literally with David, we were just FAFOing around some of the stuff at Chainstack. More FAFO, specifically around the faucet. And this the FAFO show is supposed to be very, very chill. We just chat Web3 stuff. It's usually there are three hosts. It's usually the three of us, all the guys on the developer experience team, me, Ake, David, the team lead of developer advocates, and it's usually Ethan, the team lead of developer relations. But Ethan is on vacation, well deserved as well, this week. And so it's just two of us. I was thinking we almost have a BFT setup with the way we do this. As one of the nodes, Ethan can go rogue. Rogue is probably not the word, but offline would be a better word. Would be a better word. And so was not a true BFT though. If anyone remembers, how many nodes? What's the minimum setup for a Byzantine fault tolerance system should be? You might want to pause your video and just just go off your head, go and comment. What would you think the minimum amount of nodes should be to tolerate at least one node going rogue in the system with the BFT setup, so that the machine, the kind of trustless machine keeps working, even if not all of the nodes on the network are honest. I don't know. What about you, David? By the way,
can I pause
do you know the answer? So BFT. By the way, I think David, when was your introduction to Web3? Because I want to talk about BFT a little bit. I know that's not what we planned, but it's chill podcast. I just want to mention something.
More seriously, probably a year and a half ago, where I actually started looking into how the technology works.
Not seriously then.
No, then about the time Ethereum was coming out. What was that, 2017?
Okay, so it's been some time. Nice.
I was mining Bitcoin from my crappy desktop that I put together on the fly. That's the best times. Yeah, those are the best times. Right? So the reason I'm mentioning is then you might have been around 2017. And 2017 was when BFT was one of the bigger words. Everybody was just BFT this, BFT that. I don't even know why. I think I know why, by the way. I think because Neo, does Neo still exist? I think it does. I think Neo, dubbed as Chinese Ethereum, was blowing up in 2017, and they had this consensus model of DBFT, distributed Byzantine fault tolerance system, and everybody was trying to understand what BFT is,
And the explanation at that time, I think, like the first step for people was going on Wikipedia, and just trying to read and kind of understand what that is. And to a lot of people, the consensus, like the word even consensus, in the context of distributed ledger, was new, and everybody was trying to understand what it was, and everybody was going on Wikipedia and on Wiki and just reading the information in there and trying to kind of digest this and put this out in their own words, which was I think it was contribution to more kind of noise and junk on the internet, which is something that I mentioned, by the way, last time with the project issues.mg. If everybody was just trying to contribute the code, would have been better. But the point is, like, this long-winded way of me trying to make a point was, if you went on the Wikipedia in 2017, probably still true today, and check out what BFT is, it would say Byzantine fault tolerance, and then it would give you an explanation of generals. I'm not sure if you remember this or if you know this, but like it was here is what BFT is, and it was like it was something around like generals trying to take an enemy camp, and all the generals coming from different directions, and they need to come to consensus. Yeah, and they need like a consensus of when they are all going to attack the camp, and how many of those generals can the attack can tolerate to go rogue, so that they can still win this position. And also at the same time, the generals needed to communicate between each other through messenger, making sure the message is honest. A rogue general sending a message to an honest general, how would that affect the system, and all that stuff. And basically everybody was like, in 2017, I think a lot of people didn't really understand what BFT is, but everybody was just talking generals. Hey, it's like that people would say, hey, yeah. Yeah. So Ethereum proof of work, EOS existed at that time, and was EOS proof of stake, Bitcoin is proof of work, and Neo is like GBFT, which is generals but distributed and all that stuff. So that one was like the most difficult to explain to people, and everybody was just trying around saying, hey, it's like generals, so they can become blah blah blah. It was so funny. I don't know, it's just like my boomer talk.
It didn't become easier to explain either.
Well, yeah. Well, for our setup, we have by the way, so the answer to that, I don't think we gave an answer. By the way, I just went off on my reminiscing the good old days. But the answer is 4. The answer is 4. Well,
the answer is 42.
It's not 42. 42. Yeah, I was thinking about it. So the answer is 4. And so the minimum setup is 4. Next one, I think, is 7. So we're not a true BFT here with Ethan, but then Ethan is not even rogue, so it kind of works. Yeah, it's just not yet. Yeah, it's just 2 of us. Yeah, I hope Ethan is having a nice vacation. Vacations are nice, and people should, in general, have rest.
I don't think I ever Web3. I don't think I ever seen him getting a vacation.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't feel like he's on vacation. But you do need to make sure. For me, it's kind of trying to break away from Web3. It's really difficult. But yeah, you need to have a vacation. Anyway, so so I think we were going to talk about AI, right? AI, and which is all the rage.
Everyone is talking
recently.
about it.
Yeah, everyone is talking about it. And on my way here, because I was thinking of AI and like Etherscan released an AI plugin. Everybody's releasing an AI plugin, obviously, and in Web3 as well. So now I was thinking about it today, and I had this weird, and I was also listening to the Unchained podcast, and it was Hayden Adams. Hayden Adams in there talking about Uniswap v4, and the night before that, on my way back home, I was listening to some music reviews, and I don't even listen to music like a lot. I don't know why I was doing that, but so and I was listening to music reviews by The Needle Drop. Do you know The Needle Drop, David? Anthony Fantano.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's like the number one YouTube music reviewer who's been doing this for probably 10 years at this point. People, you guys who are listening to this podcast, I'm sure some of you know this, or most of you. He's really super famous. But I had this weird idea. So, and I did this in ChatGPT. I'm going to read this out to you guys. But it's, well, first of all, let me just read the prompt. And I didn't read the results yet because I was a bit late to the show and just typed this in and started this podcast. But, so, some background. The Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano, is like this really, really famous number one music album, whatever, critic he on YouTube, and just in general, he's mainstream at this point. He's been doing this for years and years. He's very, very consistent, almost probably daily videos or maybe weekly, I don't know. And sorry. And I asked the ChatGPT. So here's the prompt: is GPT-4. Imagine you're the music critic, The Needle Drop. Imagine Uniswap Labs is a band. The frontman is Hayden Adams. Guys, I know this is a bit weird, but this podcast is like totally self-indulgent, so it should be chill anyway. Imagine the 4 versions of the Uniswap released are an album each. Meaning Uniswap V1 is an album released in 2018, Uniswap V2 is an album released in 2020, Uniswap V3 is an album released in 2021, and Uniswap V4 is the latest, freshest album released in 2023. Now do a review of Uniswap V4 as if it were an album and you're the internet's busiest music nerd, The Needle Drop. That's what The Needle Drop calls himself. And I was just thinking about different Uniswap versions, like Uniswap V1 was, it was eased to ERC20 tokens, very basic, but breakthrough, obviously. Uniswap V2 was, ERC20 to ERC20, that's where, wrapped ETH came around to actually be able to swap in tokens, not just the base currency of the protocol, like it's Ether to a token. And V3 was concentrated liquidity, whereby you can set the price range of where you want to be, the swapping the tokens in. And V4 has hooks. So I was thinking about all these versions, and I was thinking, wow, there is a lot of creativity going on in there, and it's very, very similar to Elbow. So I asked the Needle Drop to do a review of this. So let's read this out. I didn't even read this yet. And I'm really bad at impersonation. So, but let's go through this. So basically, imagine I'm the Needle Drop, and I'm doing of a latest album review, Uniswap V4 by Uniswap Labs. All right, let's dive into this brand new album, Uniswap V4, the latest release from the crypto band Uniswap Labs, led by their frontman Hayden Adams. This is the 4th studio album from Uniswap Labs, following their previous release V1, V2, and V3. Uniswap V4 is a layered, complex album that stretches the boundaries of the crypto space with its innovative use of hooks. These hooks, or contracts that run various points of a pool's action on the pool action's life cycle, are the backbone of the album, providing the band with an incredibly versatile instrument to shape the sounds of the tracks. In previous albums, Uniswap Labs kept a tight grip on the arrangement of their tracks, with life cycles executed in very strict sequence. However, Uniswap V4 sees a departure from this rigid approach, offering more freedom for improvisation and variation. These hooks allow for a much higher degree of customization of the liquidity pools, essentially enabling the band to alter the composition mid-performance before or after a swap or LP position change. These hooks also open up the stage for other musicians, developers in brackets, to join the jams, as if I was, we were out of context. Anyway, to join the jam session, innovating on top of the Uniswap protocol's liquidity and security to create their own customized AMM pools. This collaborative spirit shines through the album, where every track feels like a product of a vibrant, interconnected community. The track Time-Weighted Average Market Maker, TWAMM, is a standout, offering an intriguing new rhythm for spreading out a buy order over a long period of time. It's a smart, intricate piece that reflects the band's understanding of the importance of defending against temporary volatility in the market. Other noteworthy features of Uniswap V4 are the dynamic fees on chain limit orders and the ability to deposit out-of-range liquidity into lending pools. It's a testament to the band's ambition and creativity, reflecting their belief that the sky's the limit when it comes to the potential of their music, or in this case, their decentralized exchange protocol. Okay, ChatGPT is a bit boring, but let me read this through the rest. Uniswap Labs also deserves praise for their commitment to openness and accessibility by providing a set of sample hook contracts and sharing the early implementation of their code. They have essentially published their sheet music for others to learn, improvise, and innovate upon. This inclusive approach is likely to invite a chorus of new voices into the space, enriching the overall sound and culture of the crypto industry. Lastly, the cost effectiveness of this album is impressive, with the cost of pool creation reduced by 99%. Since all pools live within a single contract, Uniswap V4 presents a great value proposition for listeners, users who want to enjoy rich, dynamic crypto music without breaking the bank. Overall, Uniswap V4 is a remarkable achievement, showcasing Uniswap Labs' technical prowess, innovative spirit, and commitment to community building. It's a sonically diverse and intellectually stimulating album that pushes the boundaries of what's possible in the crypto music scene. This is a must listen to any crypto enthusiast or anyone who appreciates groundbreaking genre-defining music. There is no score here. Anthony Fantano usually gives a score. I would obviously, I don't know, what score would I give to Uniswap V4? I'd go with 8 out of 10, maybe 9. Specifically for the some stir in the community around the license, but the license is still good. Anyway, well, I wish this was a little more like music oriented, but it's an okay kind of weird. Yeah, like listeners, community developers, but so yeah, I know. So we've been, like, at Chainstack in general, we've been tinkering quite a lot with all the AI stuff. I think it's part of our daily work. And we're doing all the stuff that we're going to release, and by the time you listen to this episode, we might already have tons of different stuff out in there. And again, David, what's been your experience recently with AI and Web3?
So the main thing that
general.
we've been...
I know, like, users can... Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, the main thing that I've been working on the side Chainstack and AI was probably the Chainstack, the ChatGPT plugin that we have more or less live right now. I actually just shared it today with like a very ugly link to a unverified installation from like my own instance that I'm running on my personal site, just so people can go out.
But it's working.
It works. So, if people can have access to the developer plugins, so unverified plugins and such, they can already install it and try it. So that's probably the main thing that we've been working on at least on the blockchain side, because that allows you to get into ChatGPT and ask, hey, what is the latest block on Ethereum? Oh, can you give me the information for that block? And it makes conversions from ENS to address. So it's like, hey, what's the balance of Jared from Subway? Oh, here's the balance. It is something that is, I don't know how much you're gonna use something like that to do actual, work on the blockchain, but it's something interesting and it's something that it's fun to use.
But can you dive a little bit into the architecture and how it works in general? Because a lot of people might not be familiar.
So the ChatGPT plugins are actually
the end user
simple.
experience as well. Yeah,
it's actually very simple how they make it work. I thought it was quite smart after I had to dig quite a bit into their docs to try to figure it out, but then I figured it out. And so
are their docs good? Are their docs good?
Ish. In the sense that
be honest, I mean, nobody ever said the docs are great.
I know, right?
To anything in the Web3.
I'm very accustomed to I'm very accustomed to do stuff that I don't know anything about, and this was just one of these things. Like, I had no idea how OpenAI works. I had no idea how plugins work, so I had to go there and try to figure it out. And they give you these kind of steps, but it's very sporadic, and you have to try to put a lot of stuff together on your own. But I finally figured it out, and so the main architecture of these plugins is actually very straightforward. You need mainly 3 parts. You need an application that does something. It can be any type of application that runs in the backend of the plugin that does something. It can be an API call, like in our case. And what we do is that our application just makes API calls to the blockchain, depending on the different parameters. But it can be anything else. You can have, a calculator running there. You could have whatever kind of application you want to have. And then you need a server. So there needs to be a server running, because that's how ChatGPT finds your application. It communicates to your server, and it pulls the data that it needs, and it interacts with it. And then two of the endpoints of this server has to be an OpenAPI schema. So talking about OpenAPI, we can dig
I was just
for
thinking
weeks.
about it.
But OpenAPI schema is basically just a YAML schema that it tells these type of applications how APIs work. That's kind of too long, didn't read. And then there is an OpenAI manifest, and that's what ChatGPT uses to understand what your plugin is going to do. So it has a name, it has a description, it has the type of authorization that is required, and it has the URLs for actually connecting to the server. It's kind of the entry point, I guess, for ChatGPT. And then all it does is that you make a request from ChatGPT. Once you install it, the user queries something like, what is the balance of my address here, and this is my address. And then ChatGPT, basically through the OpenAPI schema, can understand what the user is asking for. It can understand what type of endpoint has to call in your application. And it's actually really smart on this, because we hard-coded a few endpoints. For example, get the base gas fee. It's one of the hard-coded endpoints because it includes some, a whole bunch of.
But wait, so it's not an RPC endpoint, and the ChatGPT is sending a message to it. Is that not it?
One of the features that we have does that. A few of them are kind of hard-coded, where it just calls some function in Web3.js to retrieve the balance, retrieve the gas, and we hard-coded a few of those because it includes a whole bunch of conversions. It doesn't spit you out the wave value. It first converts it to the regular Ether value, and then it shows it to you. So it's just to do stuff a little bit more efficiently. But then it also has kind of a custom one where you can just say, what is the code of this smart contract? And so ChatGPT is actually smart enough to understand that you are looking to call ETH get code. And so it's going to build the request for you and then send it, and then in the back end of the plugin, it's just gonna send basically uses Axios to send just a post request to the nodes. So it does that as well.
So and then it's okay. So and it's gonna get you the bytecode, right?
Yep, and it's just gonna show you the response.
Understand.
And it's smart. And the thing is that GPT-4 is smart enough to know what get code requires, and they know what get code returns. And so it's not gonna just show you the bytecode. It's gonna say, hey, this is the bytecode deployed. These others, blah blah blah. It's gonna give you a bunch of context. We were actually surprised
So you
by
can
doing this.
So yeah, you can. Sometimes I'm surprised how much context the GPT model has, and sometimes I'm surprised how much it hallucinates. And like, why? I this is like a yo-yo, like a roller coaster. I go from wow to why are you doing this to me? So
no, but it's pretty crazy because it's really simple to make it understand what you want. In the OpenAPI schema, you also have spaces for descriptions, and they did it pretty smart because these descriptions are just something that are part of OpenAPI, of the schemas. And what OpenAI does is that it uses this description as prompts for ChatGPT. So you can basically use this description as prompt. What we have, for example, is like, oh, use this endpoint to do such and such, and stuff like that. And so I was actually surprised that ChatGPT is smart enough to understand what I want. Like, everything that we have in this plugin is very bare bones at levels, talking about descriptions. The descriptions that we actually give to GPT-4 is very bare bones. It's just a sentence that says, this does this. This endpoint makes this call. You can use this endpoint to do this thing. And it understands very well how to do it. For example, some more advanced things that we have in the plugin that we didn't release yet because OpenAI doesn't allow this type of authorization yet on the marketplace. But we have interactions. One version of the plugin interacts with the Chainstack platform API. So essentially, you can ask the ChatGPT to create a node for you, to deploy a node, to send you can say, hey, please, create a project on my account, create a project, add a network, deploy a node on Ethereum, and make this request. And it does it. It changes everything. It figures out which order has to call stuff, and it does everything on its own. Like we don't have to really explain anything. It's really smart understanding that type of context. And I thought that was pretty incredible, because it really allows to make this type of application in so easy way. It's 3 files.
Yeah.
3 files.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I know this is FAFO, like chill show, but I really wanted to dive in a little bit because I'm curious. Can you trace a call for me? Like what actually happens from when the end user puts in? So you mentioned there are at least 2 different ways of how it goes. One is hard-coded using Web3.js and all the conversions, and the other one is kind of free-form. Did I get that right? So, for example,
yes.
If you do get balance, right? Well, first question is just the FAFO nature of us. Which version of Web3.js are you using? Are you on 4 or are you on below 4? That one I'll be curious because I didn't find good. So tell me, I'm just curious.
Let me check.
Okay, if you don't know, you're probably on below 4, I guess, right? Or maybe 4.
I guess.
Because 4, in my experience, like recently, I was FAFOing with Web3.js. In my experience, when I need to do something quick, I just go back to 1 because 4 has very different architecture, significant changes. And I'm sure it's awesome because I'm just going to what I know because I'm not using production. I need to quickly figure out stuff. And I'm sure there are good dogs as well, but I haven't been able to find that. It's probably my fault. So anyway, okay. So then
I have version 1.8.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. See, I knew that if you don't know the answer to what version you're using, 99% you're not on version 4. Because version 4 you need to, it's like totally different.
Yeah, I should
again, same thing for me. That's what what I go with.
Yeah, but if you
so
let's want to see more about the plugin, I can just show it. I can share the screen and show it because I have it installed on my ChatGPT.
Yeah, nice. But I was thinking, you can show it. Yeah, go ahead. But I was thinking you need to explain this as well because some of the people are not going to be listening to this with the video.
Oh yeah.
That's what I do often as well. But like, let's trace a call for. I'm just curious for hard-coded. First the hard-coded one, then the freeform one.
So let's say,
like,
let me take I don't know one of my accounts here. Okay, so
doesn't have to be like super specific. Yeah.
These are all the things that you can do essentially. And so what you can do is something like, what is my balance on this account on Polygon, let's say. I probably don't have anything, but...
wow, this already looks nice.
Yeah, and so ChatGPT, if it works, because I feel like this application that we're using to stream this is sucking up a lot of my bandwidth because it's not working very well. As you can see.
Yeah, sometimes.
Stuck. But
sometimes it does that.
Yeah, but so what this is supposed to do now is to basically call the balance endpoint. The balance endpoint is one.
What's the balance endpoint in this case? Is this something like custom that you guys did on the backend?
Yeah, this uses this simply uses a Web3.js call. It makes a get balance.
Yeah, so trace it for me. Trace it for me. So what's the balance of this account? So you basically put this message in.
Yes.
Where does it go? Does it go to the server that you're running or?
Yes. So I actually can show that too. But what happens is that yes. So now this ChatGPT is gonna basically read what we wrote here, and then I believe that what it does, it compares this to the OpenAPI schema, and in the OpenAPI schema there is this endpoint called getBalance that says use this endpoint to retrieve balance.
Yeah, but where is that schema? Is it on the server that you run? No, I'm just curious. Isn't like it? Is this your own instance?
On the server. Yeah, it's on the server.
On your own okay, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, it's not working. I think.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Oh, no, it's working. Now it's working. So
unverified. Okay.
And you can actually see what happens. So it understands that wants to call the Polygon chain. So basically, this request, for example, takes 2 parameters in the body. It takes the chain and the address, and it understands that I want to call the Polygon chain with my address, and then it says, hey, well, your balance is 0. I don't have anything. I have something on Ethereum, I think.
So it went to your own instance, your own server, basically running this thing, and then it used the endpoint that you prepared using Web3.js as well.
Exactly.
And then did the request to a Chainstack node, right?
Exactly. So for example, this one here on Ethereum shows, hey, you have this balance here. So you have this many Ether.
That's pretty cool. But then to process all of this stuff, it also makes a call to ChatGPT servers, I guess. No? Where is it processing all this stuff? Like where's the AI part?
I think what it does is uses this as context. It's kind of like when you have your application that, I don't know, uses a vector database with your own data. And then what happens is basically you send a request through the ChatGPT API, and then it sends it to the database and uses that as context to retrieve the answer.
Yeah.
I think it does something like that. I think it does.
What about the? That's pretty cool. What about the other part that is like free form kind of thing, where it doesn't have a hard-coded endpoint?
Is like this. If we want to use one of the other ones, we can. Let me get an address, I don't know, a token or something. Since we were talking about Uniswap, let me take the address from the Uni token, and we can say.
Yeah, for those on the audio, David is putting in prompts into the ChatGPT plugin, which is basically communicating with the Polygon mainnet through Chainstack endpoints, through Chainstack nodes, using ChatGPT. That's where we are in 2023, guys.
I know.
That's where we are in 2023. It's crazy.
So
Even a year ago,
yeah.
I don't remember this being possible.
So it's calling something. I'm curious to see what it does. So in theory, we don't give much. Look at that. We don't really give much context. We just say, what is the bytecode of this Ethereum smart contract? We specify Ethereum because it needs to know which endpoint to call. But besides that, we don't tell ChatGPT that it has to call it get code. We don't say any of that. But it's smart enough to understand, wait a second, I need the bytecode, and to get the bytecode, I need to get it call. And so it just builds the request. It's gonna basically.
Again, let me do a quick kind of update for those on the audio. So what David did is just ask ChatGPT plugin what's the bytecode of this address, and you know 99% of you guys know bytecode is you need to make a get code call and retrieve the stored bytecode of the smart contract bytecode of this, and it's returned it. It's like a full bytecode of a contract.
It understands how to build the request and what parameters it has to use and stuff. This is still kind of rough because you might need to specify some extra things. For example, if I want to say, let's see, what is the latest block? Latest block on Ethereum.
I mean, latest block is less impressive, right?
No, but I'm
getting bytecode.
But I'm getting to one of the limitations, for example, that we have here. Because here, again, it goes and picks it up and say, hey, this is the block number. Now, if I tell ChatGPT, if I tell it, give me the details of this block, what it's going to do is going to understand that it needs to call get block by number. ChatGPT
just returned the full block number, and it did that in non-hex, like it did it in decimal. Normal people.
Yeah.
Like number, not even hex. I wonder if it did the hex conversion or if it
I think
just
this is
did
just
it off
one
Aragon.
of the hard-coded. This is one of the hard-coded endpoints that we put, and this is one of the reasons we put this one hard-coded, because it automatically converts from hexadecimal, or rather, the Web3.js library already returns the decimal. That's why I think I already like that.
So
let's see if this is usually a gamble, because it might understand that it needs. Say, for example, here I tried to convert it in hexadecimal. So this was kind of a gamble because it has the number, the decimal, but then it tried to convert it in hexadecimal, which is probably wrong. The ChatGPT is not good at making these conversions.
Okay.
But
for people on audio, David, please explain what you just did.
So when I asked ChatGPT to retrieve the latest block, it retrieved it as a decimal number because that's how our endpoint returns it. And then I asked a follow-up question to, hey, can you get the details of this block? And it's smart enough to understand that it has to call get block by number, but then it tries to convert it in hexadecimal, because of course that's what what this method accepts. But I'm sure that if I go check this, if I go double check, this is going to be wrong. That most likely. And so this is one of the limitations. The second limitation is that it always calling with the flag true for the full transactions, and this just returns too much data, and it doesn't. You see that we get this error, and in the context we're just gonna get, hey, this is too much data. So now to do this properly, you have to be a little bit extra. You have, hey, convert the decimal block into hexadecimal, which we have an endpoint to do that, so it knows how to do that. into X, and get the details with the transactions flag false. So in theory, this is again kind of a hit and miss. In theory, it should understand that we want to keep the flag false, and it's not gonna return all the transactions. But now it's gonna chain 2 calls. Should be smart enough to chain 2 different calls. See, so first converts the decimal to hexadecimal, and this is correct because it's done through the library. And then it was smart enough to understand that I wanted to keep the flag false this time, and so now it's returning the data.
Okay.
So
that's pretty cool.
Kind of the limitation that it has here on this free form, because it's always gonna try to default to something. And
why is it giving you the logs? So it's returning the block hash, but also it's giving you the full block data.
Yeah, it's returning the full data.
Okay.
Yep. And here's the list of all the transactions in the block, for example.
Oh, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Again, 2023, that's where we are at. I think it's accelerating.
Yeah.
I was reading the other day on when the GPT-5 is going to come out, and I think it's some crazy soon, like end of this year or beginning next year. I'm not sure if it's,
who knows?
If it's when it's going to come out, but I don't know. Yeah. I've been comparing recently Bard. I like for a couple of weeks I tried running Bard, Google's Bard.
I tried it like twice.
Next to ChatGPT. Yeah, that was my experience, but I was just a little bit more persistent in. I was frustrating. I'll be honest. It's like hallucinating. It's just it either tells me it's an AI language model, I can't do that. It doesn't even explain what. It's just that. Whatever. Yeah, it's always like I would ask like specific like coding stuff, and it's just I cannot do that, or it would just completely hallucinate. I would ask, hey, can you check what framework? Like, there was a website, and I knew it was built with Next because I can actually, Google, like, go and look into Google's own stuff, which is, inspect, like debug. I just can pull this up in the browser in Chrome and see it's a Next NUXT application. And then I go to Bard. And I'm asking, hey, because I was just FAFOing, and I go to Bard and say, pull in the same website and say, can you tell me, what framework it's using? And it returns me complete hallucinations. Hey, I went to Google Inspect and I analyzed this website, and it's like it just makes stuff up. It's using, I think it said framework.com. It's like completely random stuff. It's just crazy. I don't even
kind of a limitation, huh?
I don't even know what it is. I'm just back in ChatGPT.
One of the cool things that we added to avoid this about Chainstack specifically is this scrape web data endpoint. So basically, Ethan came up with a nice and smart way to give ChatGPT. Basically, we give it in an enumerator in the OpenAPI schema, we give it every page that we wanted to be able to scrape. And then it uses one of the JavaScript scraping libraries to go into our documentation and find the relevant data and then return it to the user. So for example, let's say, I don't even remember what we scrape. Let's see, does Chainstack support subgraph? Now, in theory, it should understand that it has to go look into our documentation. It should find the correct page through the OpenAPI schema and find the data. The last time I tried it,
that's a very worked.
Yeah. But let's see.
Oh, I think this is very, very like almost an Oracle type of solution.
It is,
where
right?
Right? It's just add another endpoint to verify it to make sure it's all. Wow, this is awesome. You guys are awesome. I think this is an awesome solution.
And this
it's
is
it's pretty smart.
So it understands.
It's simple too. It's like a simple check.
It is extremely simple, and it understands that we want this specific page, the subgraph introduction, and it goes and scrapes the content out of it, and then it gives you also the link, by the way. to the documentation.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of cool.
Simple, smart stuff. That's pretty awesome. So I'm not sure if the link is going to be under the video or on podcast, but if there is, just go, guys, go check. Yeah, go check it out. It's going to end up on the hopefully ChatGPT store as well.
Deployed, yep. And
yeah, that's like if they being as centralized as they are, if they let the plugin in, but they should.
No, they should. I don't think that's going to be a problem. And to build on this, so this is cool, but then this is into ChatGPT, right? So you need to have a ChatGPT 4 subscription. You need to install the plugin. You need to have a whole bunch of stuff. Something that we're building on to go a little bit more next level is actually building a standalone application where we do this. I basically already used the LangChain framework to build a CLI tool that does this. It scrapes all the documentation from Chainstack, and then you can use the API to make calls to ChatGPT-4 using the docs context and so on and so on.
Before we go on, can you give a quick rundown on? I don't think like a lot of people know what LangChain is. That's LangChain, LangChain, and despite having the chain in its name, it's not actually a Web3 product for our Web3 guys, right?
I think in this case,
it's a LangChain.
Something. Yeah, I think chain in this case is related to some AI stuff that it creates chains of. Because chains existed before Bitcoin started. So yeah.
Let's not.
Yeah, LangChain is basically a developing framework for this type of LLM-based applications. They have libraries in Python and JavaScript, as far as I know. Python is a little bit more advanced. It has a little bit more tools available. And it makes these things incredibly, incredibly simple. I made this application to basically scrape every page of the Chainstack documentation, store it in a web, scrape the data that we need, create the vector embeddings, store it in a vector database, and then there is the chat model that goes and finds it in the database and so on. I was able to do this 50 lines of code with a bunch of imports from this LangChain framework. It makes it so easy.
That's pretty cool.
It streamlines it so much. And so I'm trying to use this to build something more standalone that we can have, that we can add in our console or in our documentation or wherever we want to add it, where you'll be able to go in and say, hey, how can I do this in Chainstack? And it's going to go and find the data directly. Basically, chat with the Chainstack documentation. And these new tools really allow you to do this type of things very easily. I'm expecting I will have something ready in a few days because it's so fast to build these type of things.
To me it's just craziness how fast everything is becoming, how much more productive we are. We can be with all of those. So one of I think last Friday or the Friday before that, I was actually thinking about that as well. I think I was FAFOing around with all this stuff, and I was because I'm currently on MacBook Air, which is I think 13-inch or whatever. The screen state is very small. So, and I had a bunch of stuff open on I had ChatGPT. I was was on SSH to remote Ubuntu server, and I also had Google BigQuery table, and just a ton of stuff on my screen, and I was using all of this almost at the same time because I was switching between all of those, and I was also feeling super lazy, or why would I even do read any of the docs, and some of the stuff I even know, but I was just FAFOing in the terminal, in the Ubuntu terminal, which is DigitalOcean remote somewhere else from my machine, and I was basically telling ChatGPT, like, tell me how to like find out the size of this file. Here's the name of the file. I wasn't even, I was just, so my goal was just copying between the terminal and ChatGPT console and all this stuff. And I had so much, so it was all Web3 related, obviously. I was looking into the number of addresses on the Ethereum mainnet. No, not addresses, accounts and all, topic for another day. But I was trying to process a lot of different stuff in there. And it hit me at this point because my screen, my screen state is really small, and what I was doing was just prompting ChatGPT and copying the commands into the terminal, and I had all this stuff open. So, and I was doing Web3, and it hit me where we are today, and maybe like in a year, I could totally see myself to be using my full stack for FAFO, for like some cool time chill, focused FAFO would be Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pro, because I was thinking I would really like to have just a so much bigger screen, not to feel cramped. I don't really want to have like 3 monitors set up and just switching between. I really don't want that. I want like a breather room, more, if you know what I mean, right? So it just, I could totally see myself using Vision Pro and just switching between all those. And then at the same time, I was thinking, why do I need to type this stuff into ChatGPT and copy from it and then put it in the Ubuntu terminal, this remote server console? If I could just tell it directly, and it would convert all the stuff, and I was like, what's the size of this file? Just tell me, how much is disk space is left, and do some processing for me, just directly into it. And because it's Web3, it was making some calls to nodes, and then so 3 main things like Web3 infrastructure, Apple Vision Pro, and ChatGPT. And I was thinking, wow, wouldn't that be cool? But at the same time, I had another thought that hit me, which was totally surprising. But of all those 3 components, only one component I'm not worried about, because the other 2 are centralized. If they close down ChatGPT or GPT AI, simply because of the amount of data and the model it has that's behind the doors, if they close the doors, the effort I need to put would go significantly up, and my productivity would go significantly down, right? And I might even lose some motivation to be doing some of that stuff. If Apple Vision Pro cuts access to me or to everybody, then my screen state it just go back to cramped. And Web3 is the only thing that will just keep running. It was really interesting. So my surprising thought, a revelation to me, was, interestingly enough, Web3, of all those 3 components, blockchain and Web3, was the only component I wasn't feeling anxious about, right? Because usually you always feel like your Web3 is where goes up and down and everything. I just, people in general, FOMO, FUD, all this, feel super, super anxious. But in this setup was my first true revelation of when I was thinking, wow, Web3, I will still be able to do all the stuff that I need to do. I will still, despite the 2 components of this setup, being cut, I will still be able to, I will be slower, but I will still be able to do that stuff. So that was an interesting thought to me.
I have the same thought, if OpenAI closes doors tomorrow, I'll be like, okay, now my productivity goes down by 95%. I don't even remember when is the last time that I Googled, how to do something. It's pretty crazy, actually.
I was also thinking. I have a feeling. I didn't check that, but I'm kind of getting the feeling recently, it might not be true, that the Google, like search engine indexing, the results that you see if you Google for stuff, I have a feeling that they display less and less. It used to be like hundreds and hundreds of pages, but now, hey, we're hiding like a number of pages for you if you want. Click here if you want to see those, blah blah. But I get this totally like conspiracy-like feeling, which again might not be true, is that the main mode of operation for everybody is we are getting into we are becoming like just chat with, talk to AI, don't don't Google for stuff, and that's what I'm feeling. It's a strong feeling, but it might be just super crazy conspiracy feeling. But I feel like we're being channeled into just talking to AI.
For a lot of the technical stuff, it's about that. Unless you want to interact.
I mean,
with
it's
a
a lot.
person, unless you want to interact with a person, then you go to something like Stack Exchange and you ask questions to a person. Otherwise, you just say, "Hey, ChatGPT, how do I do this?"
And because of the interactivity of the AI, I think it's you can just you can learn the learning pace, because we always learn, no matter how much you keep learning. The learning pace, because of the interactivity of ChatGPT, it just goes up like 10x probably, right? Because if you just Google for stuff and you ask questions on Stack Exchange or you help other people, there's like a huge delay between those. Or if you want to hire someone that you can talk to, it's still nowhere near in terms of speed and whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And if you use like YouTube University, the hypothetical, if you just subscribe to a course and just go through a course, it's still like a one-way web one sort of thing where somebody is just telling you stuff and but with ChatGPT, just $20 a month, and you can actually talk to it. And some of the hallucinations that it's doing to you, it's there. If you know what you're doing, they're very easy to spot, and they might even be a part of like you staying alert and still learning instead of just mindlessly kind of copying all the stuff that it's doing, because you always run it through your critical thinking, right? I mean, we're only talking coding stuff and stuff that we understand, like Web3 and all the stuff, right? Yeah,
but it's
things that we
because
have quite a bit of background in.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really the power really comes out when you give your own data, because then you can use this language model to really present the data that you have in a much better way. Let's say that you have, I don't know, a terrible explanation about what your service is, but if you give that explanation as context, and then a user asks what is the service doing, the language model is going to be able to present it in a much nicer way, giving a lot of context to it. So this is what I noticed. That's what I really do a lot of times when I write a tutorial or something. I just write a sentence, like, I don't know, explaining something. I write a bad sentence about it with bad grammar and bad explanation and say, just improve this. And it's just going to spit you out a paragraph that is 10 times better than I could have done in 2 hours. So it's like, it's crazy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's kind of scary, actually.
But Web3 is open. It's gonna keep going on. It's a hyperstructure kind of thing. So it's autonomous. Nobody will be able to cut you off. So I think we can start wrapping up here.
GPT,
unless
we should make a Chainstack language model, decentralized.
That's I'm sure there are some projects already working on that sort of stuff.
I bet.
Yeah.
But
we can do that as well.
About an hour here.
So let's wrap up. We're gonna have a transition, but before we wrap up, again, Web3. is the thing that's going to stay with you guys. Is going to be always open. Keep building on this. Use the best infrastructure out there, which is Chainstack. We just released the new global Elastic endpoints that we have right now that do all that cool stuff for you, and like load balancing as well. And just go and try them out. Try them out. Go, subscribe to a developer plan on Chainstack instead of this video as well, or whatever audio podcast you're listening to. But go to Chainstack. Check us out if you're not there yet. If you are there yet, if you want something better, like a custom deal for you, if you're switching from a different provider, or if you want, to come to Chainstack, we have the famous 3 U's, which is, unlimited flexibility, which means we can customize anything for you, whatever specific method you want in there. Just talk to us. Unbounded performance. And basically unlimited everything, just unbeatable pricing as well. Come to us, talk to us, get a good deal. Everybody will appreciate it. You can talk to me specifically, talk to David, talk to Ethan, and build on Web3. Keep building on Web3. It's like awesome. It's super awesome. It's stuff like ChatGPT is just adds. What's this? So what's the thing that the chemical that makes like flavor deeper of a meal? You remember this one? If you know this one,
no.
I don't remember the name. Yeah, guys, Google for the name. There is one specific thing that a lot of manufacturers just add to like to a product that you can eat. I don't remember the name. I think it's something, but ChatGPT is what adds like more flavor to it. But the base of this is still super awesome, right? So that's the main thing. Awesome, open to anyone. Build it. Use Chainstack infrastructure to be more creative. Let Chainstack run all this like DevOps operations stuff for you, and just go be creative with Web3. Talk to us, and yeah.